Hey everybody, I'm Den Haring and welcome back to my channel, Fish Den 365. It's good to be back. It's been a little while, but we're back today and we're here to talk about a recent visit to Conesus Lake that we did just a few weeks ago. It was a number of us going up there. I think we had a dozen people, a dozen fishing friends that came up to New York and fished Conesus. And what a great lake it is at this time of year in the fall, mid-late fall. It's just got some fantastic fishing. It doesn't mean it's always easy to figure out though, but once you do, it's just amazing. So we had 12 people coming up this year. And we've been doing this for a number of years now. We've made a couple of videos about this last year and the year before. And the year before that, we started doing this tournament among friends. So it's a 2-day tournament. And the group of us come up and we get up there for some good camaraderie and some good competition among us. And both are a lot of fun from my point of view. I was fishing with my buddy Judd Herr. He's been my partner since we've been going up there. And I think it was 4 years ago now, or this is the fourth tournament among friends that we've had. We've been coming up way longer than that. You know, the first couple of these things were going on, you know, over a decade ago. But maybe even close to 2 decades ago now. But we've been doing this tournament among friends, and Al Furbacher is kind enough to get some trophies for the winners. And the first year, Judd and I won. The second year, I think Al and Kevin won. Last year, I think it was Christian and his brother Johnny Bench who won. So we had 3 different winners for 3 different years. And this year, we were wondering who would be, would there be a team that repeats, or would it be a new team that wins? And we'll give that away now. It was actually a new team that won. It was brothers, Glenn and Jeff Burrell. Congratulations to Glenn and Jeff. They won this year. So 4 different years we've been doing this. 4 different teams won. I think that talks a little bit about the strength of the fishing group that we have. And so it's you know, it's always fun to get out there. This year, Judd and I were not able to get up there until Thursday. At 11 o'clock we arrived, so we had half a day on Thursday to figure out what was going on, because the tournament is Friday and Saturday. So on Friday, it was the 3 biggest fish. So we were allowed to keep our 3 biggest fish, bring them in, weigh them in, and then we put them right back into the lake. And then on Saturday, it was our 5 biggest fish. And then the combined total of those 8 fish, the combined total weight of those 8 fish, would be how you win this thing. And so it was a lot of competition, and it was a fun event out there. And at the end of the day, Glenn and Jeff won, and Judd and I took second. We didn't start out that way, but we had a very good Friday and an even better Saturday. So we'll show you the standings at the end of the video so you can see just how all the teams did. But it's just so much fun. I wanted to share with you the experience that I had with Judd out there. So we got out there on Thursday, and it was 11 o'clock, and it was going to be, you know, it was clear it was going to be a cold day. There was some, you know, cold rain on the way up, and the temperatures were dropping. And typically when we get to the lake, we always like to go to one particular spot first. We've been doing this year in and year out because that is a good gauge for us. It tells us what the fish are doing and what they want. Do they want something on the bottom? Do they want something suspended off the bottom? These kind of things. So we went to that area with high hopes because we've always caught them there in years past, and we struggled. We didn't do well there at all. In fact, we only got 1 fish. I think Judd got a smallmouth there. Might have weighed about 3 pounds, and so that was not a good start for us. And we started to look at other areas, and we struggled that day. We did not catch a lot of fish. And the weather took a turn for the worst. We had horizontal snow at one point. It looked like a blizzard. Snow collected on the ground. It was even beginning to accumulate on the ramp a little bit. And at one point I looked at Judd and he looked at me, and we both looked like snowmen because the front parts of us were covered in snow from this sideways snow blowing. And I wear glasses, but it was getting in my eyes, it was getting in my mouth. It was just crazy. So as you can see from the pictures you're looking at now, we had some interesting time out there. We only ended up with a few fish that Thursday between the two of us. I don't think we caught more than 4 or 5 fish. I'm not sure anymore, but we didn't do well. That's for sure. And so when we got in, it's always interesting to talk to the group to see how everybody else did. Some people in the group were already up on Tuesday, and they were getting some good practice in. Sometimes that works in a team's favor and sometimes not, because the conditions change, and as they do, the fishing changes too. And so there were a lot of changes between Tuesday and Saturday during this particular week when we were up there. Things like one day the wind would be blowing out of the southeast or out of the southwest. The next day we'd be blowing out of the northwest or out of the north even, completely opposite. And so fish set up differently. Usually what you'd like to have in a situation like this is whatever that wind is, you want it to be consistent for a few days, because what it does is it starts to position the fish. They might be behind points, they might just position in weed beds a certain way, and once you start to figure that out, you know how to align your boat, how to get the right boat position so that you can cast to these fish. And because the weather was changing, you had to adapt somewhat, or you were not going to catch them consistently. And so I was learning this. I already knew that, but I was learning a little bit at dinner, talking with Kevin and Al. They had a really good day on Wednesday. I think they just slammed the fish. And Kevin gave me a hint. He told me that they didn't bite the way they wanted them to, and so. But when they did figure out how they were biting, it was lights out. They caught, I think they said they caught 40 fish on Wednesday, and here Judd and I are barely catching 5 on the next day, Thursday. So we had some work to do on the first day of the tournament, where we get to keep our 3 biggest. That was Friday. And of course the weather changed then too. In fact, Friday morning found us with an icy ramp, and we actually had to get some sand. Fortunately, I think it was Christian and John and Christian Bench that brought up some sand. We put that on the ramp so that we can get our boats in there safely without having our vehicles go in the water with the boats. So we got that out of the way, and we got out there, and as I recall, there was a pretty good wind on Friday, but not too bad, not to the point where it was, where it made it unsafe to fish. Just to give you a little bit of information with this, a few years ago, there was a day where we had like 30 or 40 mile an hour winds blowing, and we just had to bag that day. We couldn't fish safely. It was very cold and very windy, and we ended up going to one of the fishing tackle stores a little up the way from there. I think it was Sports-A-Field, and just spent the day relaxing until better weather came. Well, the next day, the wind died down, and it's a good thing it did, because when we got to the ramp, it was 14 degrees. I think it was actually 8 degrees when we got up that morning. This was not wind chill. This was actual temperatures. And it was 14 degrees when we launched the boat. But there was sun out, and the water was dead calm, at least where Judd and I fished that particular year. So, if you were dressed for it, if you had your gloves and your hat and all the gear on, you can take that, and it was okay. What couldn't take it so well was our equipment. You'd reel in with a bait caster, and it would look like ice spaghetti coming out of the the reel, out of the opening where your line goes through your reel. It was just crazy, and that happened again this week when we were up on Thursday. Well, actually Friday. It was cold. It never got above freezing on Friday. And so for the entire day, our guides were freezing up on our rods. You had to dip them in the water and shake them to get the ice out of there. And the bait casters were locking up because they were getting ice in the spools and ice coming out of the different parts. It was actually easier to fish with a spinning rod and spinning reel, primarily because of the how those things are engineered, right? The rod has bigger guides overall, and so you can fish with those and not get them clogged with ice so easily. And the way the line comes off the spool, is better too. It's less likely to have frozen spaghetti coming out of your reel, which is what happened with our bait casters. But we struggled through, and we started out very slowly on Friday, no better than what we were doing on Thursday. And it was funny too, because we started to think about different things. I was really proud about how the way Judd and I thought, how we fished together, how we worked as a team to figure out how to catch these fish. And so this is, that's what I'm going to share with you, and I hope you find value in it. We stayed positive, we didn't give up, but by 1 o'clock in the afternoon, we did not have a lot of fish in the boat. We had a few, and it was funny. Every time we tried something different, we'd catch a fish, and then we thought, oh, that's the way. So there was a point in time where, I tried a different bait, I forget what it was now, and I caught a fish, and I thought, okay, this is it. But I couldn't catch any more on it. And then Judd threw a blade bait and caught a smallmouth, a nice one, but could not catch any more on it. And so this kept happening to us. And then, I began to think, well, what haven't we done? And, we fished the typical stuff. We were fishing the typical baits. We were fishing the typical areas, the weed edges, some of the deeper zones. And I said to Judd, we've done everything but fish shallow. And so we started fishing shallower. And shallow is a relative term when you're fishing at any lake, but we went pretty shallow. And my first cast in shallow water, I caught a fish. And then Judd did a different technique in shallow water, and he caught like 3 fish. And then I caught some, and then we started making adjustments, and the next thing you know, we were catching a lot of fish. And at least a dozen of those were largemouth bass, and that was what we were fishing for, both largemouths and smallmouths. That's what was part of this tournament. Anything else didn't count. And we were surprised at the number of largemouths that we were catching on a cold day like that, with the water being cold, but we caught them. And we caught some very nice smallmouths too. So by the end of that day, I think we were in 3rd place. We were within striking distance. We felt pretty good about what was going on. And then Saturday came along, the second day, where you get to keep 5 fish. Judd and I got out there, and right away we started with what we left off with the day before. But the wind was changed. It was blowing out of the complete opposite wind direction. But we didn't know if that would matter or not, so we went to some spots that we got on the day before. I was throwing a particular bait. It was actually a Ned rig, and I caught a smallmouth on it pretty early in the morning. In fact, within the first couple of casts of the morning. And that misled us, because we kept doing that, and it wasn't working out. We were not catching fish like we were the day before, and we could not find a largemouth. So, but we reminded ourselves that the day before, we didn't hit them real good until about 1 o'clock. 1 o'clock, it was lights out. We were caught them from 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock that day throughout the rest of the afternoon. But, we stayed positive, even though we had a bit of a slow start on Saturday. And, we kept trying different things, trying to figure stuff out. And it was getting to be, noontime, 12:30. It was getting to be about that same time. And we're like, what's going on? We got to do some different things. So we decided to do a little drift fishing. We just left our boat drift in the wind and covered water. And that began to work. We didn't catch the fire out of the fish, but the fish we caught were big. They were good-sized smallmouths. Judd got a nice largemouth. Some big pike came in too. That was a little bit frustrating, because it just kind of slowed us down a little bit. But by the end of the day, we put a respectable bag together, and we caught a good number of fish. Not as good as Friday, but a decent number of fish to make it a fun outing. And, we thought we might need 1 kicker fish to take it over the top, but we actually thought we had enough to win. We put ourselves in a position to win with the smallmouths we had. They were all, over 4 pounds, every one of them. And so we got to the weigh-in, and we did our deal, and we got edged out by Glenn and Jeff. And the reason why Glenn and Jeff won is both days they had, I think, at least on the second day, but I think on the first time too, they had some good largemouths in with their fish. And, if you catch the right largemouth, that is extra weight, because they grow on average a little bit, they grow bigger than the smallmouths. And so, and they used a run and gun type approach, where they were just fishing different areas. They'd go and they'd fish it. They'd try and catch their fish there, and they'd move to the next area, and they just kept doing that same thing. And they caught a good number of both largemouths and smallmouths by doing that. So congratulations go out to Glenn and Jeff for their win. If you've never done something like this, if you've never fished with a group of people for a few days, I strongly encourage you to do it, even if you have to prod them to get them to agree to go and do it, because once you get up there with everybody, it's just a blast. You get to, you get to unload some stress. There's good camaraderie, there's a lot of joking around. One of the guys always makes a postcard each year. He's just skilled at doing things with pictures and stuff, and so he made a postcard of Johnny Bench. We'll show it to you here. And what that was about was, our boats were frozen for a few days. We were actually using hair dryers from the hotel to to be able to open up our rod lockers and stuff. So here's Johnny Bench using his hair dryer as a microphone. Funny stuff. So yeah, I would encourage you to. It doesn't matter what time of year it is, but for us, it's kind of like one of the big last hurrahs of the year, because from here on in, the water just gets colder and colder until it freezes up, and so it's one way to get out there and enjoy each other's company, have some good competition, eat some good food, and make the most of it. So I would encourage you, if you've never done that kind of thing, to do it. It's a great experience, and hopefully you'll enjoy it the way we do, and do it year in and year out. Make sure you take that time to do it, because it's fun, and it's a good thing to catch up with everybody too, and it gives you that opportunity to do it. So yeah, we had a good group of people up there. We had Rudy and his partner Joe. We had myself and Judd. We had Al and Kevin. We had Johnny and Christian Bench. We had Cliff and Dwayne. Did I miss anybody? I think that, obviously the winners, the Burrell brothers, Glenn and Jeff Burrell. So a group of a dozen of us, and we'll show you the standings for how we did. And throughout this video, you'll see some of the pictures of the fish we caught, obviously. One thing before we go, we want to remind you that it's getting time now to, we want to give you an update on our 1,000 subscriber giveaway. We've been doing well with the subscribers, and that giveaway will be taking place probably this weekend, sometime around Black Friday, maybe Saturday or Sunday. That'll be about 3 weeks, so stay tuned for that. That'll be coming very soon. Remember, we're giving away a Shimano Curado reel and one of these Norman Top Dollar lures. You can't get this lure anymore. I'm telling you, it's a great lure, so you may want to get your hands on that. So if you haven't subscribed yet and you want to get into the giveaway, you have to go on to the video where we introduced this giveaway, which is just 2 videos ago. I'll leave it in a link here. And you want to be a subscriber and also to comment on that video. That gives you entry, and this weekend we'll be picking a winner. So that's that. I wish you all the best of luck, and we'll be back to talk a little bit about who won the contest. And I've got another video coming out where I was at Blue Marsh. I was fishing for stripers, but I caught some other interesting fish instead, so it'll be fun to show you that too, coming up real soon. If you like this video, hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. Remember, we're certified Bassified, and it's all about the art and science of fishing on this channel, and that's what we talk about. We've got some good plans for some videos coming up. As always, may God bless your fishing endeavors, and we'll see you on the water.